Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. We have A.K.I gameplay details for you in Street Fighter 6 today. So what you're looking at right now is a newly released trailer for A.K.I, just came out in fact, and we get a little bit more of a look at her and her cutscenes, I'm assuming from World Tour mode, and also more importantly, her gameplay proper, and her gameplay looks wild. And yes, we have a release date as well. That is September the 27th. So now let's look at her gameplay because it is something else for sure. So it's clear her main martial art is snake-style kung fu. If you've ever played, say, Christie in Dead or Alive before, you're going to notice a few bit of similarities. Although A.K.I is definitely a lot goofier and weirder than Christie is for sure. It'll become more apparent later, but she definitely has the range as well. And here's a tricky overhead. Now, following through at this point in the trailer, they're giving an idea of some of the utility the character has. So, anti-air, check. Low crush, going over the short, check. Also, normal cancelled into special or perhaps a target combo, check. Now, what's actually most important here is not so much the target combo and not the cool motions that she's making, it's look at Chun-Li. Now, Chun-Li usually isn't glowing with like purpley black particles all over her body, right? Usually. So we can infer here that yes, you better believe poison is in play. A.K.I, the student of Fang, all about poison, and she will retain the poison mechanic. Now, next up we can see some of her throws. So, big time kung fu manipulating your limbs, tossing you around. This is her forward throw. And for her back throw, a little less subtle, as brings you down and then just absolutely rips into you with her finger claws. Now, our next sequence here is very, very important. So, when you see her basically blow a kiss to Chun-Li, that applies the poison state effect. And the move she's doing, the big stab, that is called the Serpent Lash. And we're going to see that move again in a moment here, but what's important about Serpent Lash is this. It applies poison, but if the poison is already on the enemy, it detonates the poison. So effectively, if you can manage it, you can apply the poison, which is great, and you have an opportunity to cash out, as it were. You don't have to wait for all the poison to do its damage. You can do Serpent Lash while they're poisoned to get an effect right here, right now, without waiting a long time. Now, this guy here, this is the Nightshade Pulse. So this big old bubble, this is your projectile, and naturally enough, applies the poison effect as you would expect, and it does have another additional effect. So here, A.K.I's like directly comboing into it and hitting directly, so not as applicable. But while it's on screen as a big bubble, you can actually strike it as per the press release I've gotten here. You can strike it to pop it early and create like a giant AoE out of it. Now here's some of the mechanics in action. So we have the Serpent Lash, the first one, applies the poison. Then we see her go low to the ground. This is called the Sinister Slide. And then another Serpent Lash, which detonates the poison. So the first one, as you see there, Chun-Li's poison, she's left standing. The second one detonates the poison and knocks her back. And the Sinister Slide, this guy right here, yes, naturally, very low to the ground, can go underneath quite a few things. And as we'll see later in the trailer, you actually get some offensive options out of this. You have like attacks out of the stance. Very, very handy. Now, next up, another unique ability. This is the Orchid Spring. And basically, you place poison on the ground, and it does about what you think it would do here. You step in the puddle, you get poisoned. And also, I believe this might be a variant of the Serpent Lash, a very high angle anti-air. Now, the poison's all well and good, but if you need more proof that she's her master's student, yes, A.K.I has all sorts of non-standard weirdo movement. Sliding under the fireballs, and then weird command leap strike attacks here, just stabbing people all the way down. Even more oddball movement, chasing you while she's on her back and just rolling her shoulders to move. And as mentioned before, these have attacks out of them. You can do stuff. And this attack as well, as you can see, applies the poison state. So her moving weird's more than just getting around fireballs. It's actually part of the offense. She can get really down low to the ground, easily going underneath Chun-Li's attack and then striking back. And if you think you can block and wait her out while she's doing all this crazy bendy nonsense, don't. Because from the crouching snake stance, she also has a command grab and she will absolutely choke you out. And yes, because she has a command grab, that does mean I am much more interested in her than I was before. I am exactly that shallow. Next up, we see what looks to be a cross-up into her level 2 super. So she strikes some odd poses, as she does, and blasts you up in the air and hits you with just a gigantic wave of poison. Now, to me, the most important part of this isn't the actual attack, which is cool, is even though she has a different style of kung fu from Fang, you can see she's flapping her arms to stop her descent from the super. So she did learn that directly from Fang. Maybe she doesn't take to the skies quite the same as he does, but she definitely learned how to flap her arms and fly still regardless. Now the trailer keeps going. How about her alternate costume, which will be live when she goes live? We're going to get some interesting gameplay sequences next here. So EX Nightshade destroys other projectiles, because that's how EXs work in Street Fighter 6. It bops JP, so she follows up here. He's poisoned, and she does the Serpent Lash, which detonates the poison. Now, the interesting thing here to note is the angle is kind of like a 45-degree angle. We've seen it straight across, we've seen it straight up, we've seen it angled, so that's probably light, medium, heavy buttons. And EX Sinister Slide definitely looks projectile invulnerable. The pillar goes clear through her and she goes on the other side. So if you're struggling in neutral, that should at least get you in. And we saw the command leap with attack earlier from the trailer, but this looks to be the X version, and the X version is either a hit grab or a command grab. It does have hit sparks when it connects, so I'm leaning on the side of it being a hit grab. But either way, the effect is very obvious, as she's just absolutely stabbing you down and applying the poison effect. Here, it looks like we get the beginnings of what would be a B&B combo. So when we start in, jump, I'm assuming heavy punch, normal, special cancel in the stance, and then the stance version of the low that we saw earlier, then crouch light, and then into her projectile, and applies the poison state. There's some jabs in there later in the combo, so it probably doesn't help the scaling, so the damage will be lower, but still, regardless, you end the combo with the poison state, which is what you gotta be aiming for with this character. Here, we get to see Orchid Spring in action, so applies the poison bubble on the ground, and as soon as JP touches the ground, he turns purple, he is poisoned. And after this, they both mash Drive Impact at each other, as you do, and we can see here after the Drive Impact is over and done with, that she actually will detonate the poison that's already on JP. Once again, just touching the puddle gives you poison, there's no chance to block it or whatever, it's just gonna happen. So after DI hit, and then boom, pops the poison and big flip state. And now the big secret is, it looks like popping the poison gives you juggle potential, because she goes for her level 1 super after the fact, and it definitely connects. So apply poison, burn poison, that means big time combo potential. And here, just because I know some of you love it, some of you hate it, but yes, A.K.I doing the Nightshade Pulse, Drive Rush right after, so Fireball in the Drive Rush, very much a thing for her. After which, as you would expect, some combo potential, burning an additional DR, and here we see the EX version of Serpent Lash, which leads to this devastating palm crumple effect, which does give her even more combo potential after the fact. And of course, like any good trailer, we gotta end up with the big cinematic super, right? So for A.K.I, she kind of mean mugs you and gets right in your face, to the point you take a swing at her and she easily dodges, and she knows all the pressure points in the body and makes very good use of it. Tap, tap, tap. At which point here, having her fun, goes for the strike, the finishing blow. Just one more little tap, and then yikes. All I can definitely say is you're definitely feeling the effects. While she's doing the whole crazy lady laugh, your body's basically exploding. So I think the way they're trying to sell her to us as very odd, very dangerous, I think they're pulling it off pretty well. She's a good mix of crazy lady and still a little bit of goofy. Like you saw her flapping her arms, her quote-unquote wings, right? Although this, not as goofy. This one's a little distressing. And that's the trailer. I'm very, very impressed myself. So, say for Rashid, we had an idea what Rashid would be, right? Obviously, some new stuff for Street Fighter 6, but A.K.I is a lot more new. Now, as we've seen, obviously some inspiration from Fang. Very obviously, right? But still, in the end, she's very much a new character. And since there's already so much rush down, pressure, and all that kind of stuff in Street Fighter 6, the fact that she appears to be more mid-range and setup, like applying poison pits, applying the poison, then burning the poison, all that kind of stuff, and obviously with the oddity of her movement, which is not quite like anybody else, and the fact that she has a command grab, which is always a selling point to me, she looks very, very unique compared to the rest of the cast. And as we talked about earlier, she even has Fireball into Drive Rush behind the Fireball and attack, right? So that has been classically strong so far in this game. Time will tell as far as like the tier end of things go. Will she be top tier? Will she be bottom tier? Who actually knows? But what's most important out of the gate for a new character is she looks fun and unique. Her game plan looks visually cool and interesting, and ain't nobody else doing the stuff that she can do. And as far as a DLC character goes, unique is a big part of the deal, you know, because you're asking us to spend money on the character, right? So I think that's a big win out of the gate. So once again, she does come out in September, specifically on the 27th. So not launching directly against Mortal Kombat, which is wise. You don't want to launch your DLC character against Mortal Kombat. And when the time comes, keep checking the channel. I'll have a lot more info on A.K.I for you. But until then, well, we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.
Oh, yeah.